My jerk of a fiance went on a business trip and I booked the hotel. Next day, hotel calls me. Miss, you left your, nightwear. What nightwear? Two lace nightgowns and, three pairs of ripped black stockings. Meanwhile, I'm holding my fiance's cancer diagnosis, trying to sell my house to pay for his treatment. Guess I don't need to bother anymore. After all, it is not like I am going to be the one to die. Hello? Who's this? I wiped away my tears, trying to sound normal. Who is it? Hello, miss. This is the Grand Lux Hotel. You left your nightwear in the room. Would you like to pick it up yourself, or should we mail it to you? The Grand Lux. That's the hotel I booked for Ethan yesterday before he left for his business trip. But I didn't go with him, so how could there be women's nightwear in his room? This didn't make any sense. Are you sure there's no mistake? Can you tell me the room number and, what kind of nightwear it is? Room 1202, booked under Mr. Ethan Miller. The nightwear consists of two lace sets, and three pairs of ripped black stockings. Okay, the name and room number were right. But lace? I never wear lace. And ripped stockings? That means they were used, so it couldn't be something Ethan bought new to give to me. It was pretty obvious what was going on. I'd been cheated on. Big time. Leave them at the front desk. I'll pick them up myself. After I said that, I kind of froze, and the real estate agent's voice snapped me back to reality. Miss Davis, are you still selling this house? I wiped the ink from my fingerprint I'd been signing documents with a tissue and shook my head. This house. It was a gift from my grandmother for my 18th birthday. A huge 200 square meter apartment with a river view. I loved this place. Unless it was absolutely positively necessary, I would never sell it. Miss Davis, although the market isn't great right now, there are still buyers on our platform willing to pay a high price. I understand that you need this money for life-saving purposes, and I'm willing to help you find the best buyers. The agent was talking while glancing at the medical diagnosis I'd forgotten to put away. The big, scary words on it were pretty unmistakable. Pancreatic cancer, mid-stage. Seeing my dazed expression, the agent added, "You're still young, you can always buy another house later, but life—" I managed a weak smile. I think you misunderstood. It's not me who's sick. I smoothed out the diagnosis. In the patient's column were two words. Ethan Miller. Yeah, Ethan, my fiancé, has cancer. I only found out yesterday afternoon. Since I'd left my information during the checkup, the results were sent to me. It took me like 4 or 5 hours to even begin to accept it. Then I spent the entire night agonizing over how to tell Ethan how to deal with this whole nightmare. In the end, I decided to sell the house my grandmother gave me, to raise money to save Ethan's life. But now, thinking about it, it's kind of hilarious, in a really messed up way. While I was freaking out about him, crying so much I soaked my pillow, he was busy with another woman. At this point, whatever, since he could keep a mistress without telling me, I can keep his cancer diagnosis from him for a little while, too. That makes us even, right? Book a flight, go to the airport. I got myself together. I arrived at the city where Ethan was on his business trip a little after 6 p.m. It's not that I still had some pathetic hope for him. I just had to see who had this incredible charm. The one who made Ethan keep going despite his illness to the point of tearing 3 pairs of stockings. Seriously. Finish the meeting, babe. Heading back to the hotel now. Remember to eat on time. I'll be back tomorrow. Ethan sent me a message, complete with a kissy face and a miss you emoji. Ugh. I replied to him in my usual tone, trying to act normal. At that moment, I was already at the hotel entrance, watching Ethan go in with my own eyes. He was alone, surprisingly. For a split second, I felt this wave of relief. Maybe it was all just a misunderstanding. After all, how could a 5-year relationship be thrown away so easily? But just 10 minutes later, Ethan basically slapped me in the face with the truth. He came back downstairs, clearly having showered and changed into a clean shirt. The girl waiting downstairs eagerly jumped into his arms, even rubbing her face against his chest. Ethan pushed her away, looking around all nervously. He was cautious, yeah. But the affectionate look on his face? Undeniable. I knew that girl. She was Ethan's neighbor. Her name was Chloe. I met her when Ethan first brought me home to meet his parents. Her mom brought her over for dinner, and when she saw me, she told Chloe to call me sister-in-law. Chloe hesitated for like forever, and finally, in this tiny voice, called me sister. I didn't think much of it at the time, just figured she was shy meeting me for the first time. I never, ever imagined that she didn't call me sister-in-law because her relationship with Ethan was not ordinary. She just didn't want to acknowledge that I was his future sister-in-law. I followed them, trying to ignore the nausea and the burning anger. The two of them were so wrapped up in their little love fest that they didn't even notice if anyone was following them. They had dinner and then headed straight into a private cinema. Seriously? Before going in, Chloe stood on her tiptoes and whispered something in Ethan's ear. Then they both shared this knowing smile. Unfortunately, I was too far away to hear what they said. But come on, I knew what they were about to do next. So, after they entered the room, I followed them in. The place was being watched by a young guy, probably in his 20s. I slipped him some cash, and in return, he let me watch the surveillance footage. Classy, I know. Ethan and Chloe were sitting on the sofa, looking a little tipsy. Ethan, were you satisfied last night? Of course. Ethan pulled Chloe closer, and she started to, undress. Under her trench coat, she was wearing a set of that lace lingerie. Ethan's hand started exploring. Chloe, it's been so many years, and you've really gotten better at this. Just as they were about to kiss, I dialed Ethan's number. He flinched, like he'd been electrocuted, but he didn't dare hang up. At that moment, Chloe snatched his phone. Too scared to answer? Want to make it more exciting? Before Ethan could stop her, Chloe answered the call. I saw through the surveillance that he held the phone far away, pretending the signal was bad. Meanwhile, Chloe straddled him, starting to kiss him, unbuttoning his shirt, undoing his belt. The two of them were glued together, and even with the trench coat covering them, their movements were obvious. Ethan, what are you doing? For some reason, after the initial explosion of anger, I became weirdly calm. There was no emotion in my voice on the phone. Olivia, what are you saying? The signal here is so bad. Though Ethan tried really hard to control it, his voice still had this slight, uncontrollable tremor. Chloe hadn't stopped, seemingly knowing exactly what men like, what they enjoy the most. And after hearing Ethan talking to me, her actions became even bolder and faster. Then Ethan started calling my name. Olivia, Olivia. His voice grew more urgent, and finally he hung up the phone and threw it away. Both his hands held Chloe tightly in his arms, as if trying to, I don't know, merge into one. Then came this long, satisfied sigh. Disgusting. Wait here, I'll go call Olivia back. Ethan got up and was about to leave. As I wondered where I should hide, because awkward, Chloe grabbed him. Don't go! Didn't you say you're already tired of her? Why do you still care so much? My fists clenched involuntarily, but I was also curious. What would Ethan say? He sat back down on the sofa. Yes, I am tired of her. She's rich, she's beautiful, and everyone around me says that getting her was a blessing from several lifetimes of good fortune. But do you know, Chloe? It's precisely because she's so perfect that I always feel inferior in front of her. But damn it, I'm a man. What man doesn't want the admiration of the woman he loves? He took a big gulp of his drink after speaking, and Chloe leaned on his shoulder. Come on. You've always been the best student in our area, and now you're successful in your career. No matter what others say, in my heart, Ethan will always be the best. So, to Ethan, I was someone high above, someone who made him feel inferior. It turns out the saying is true. Men love the support of a smart woman, but they also crave the adoration of a woman from, shall we say, humbler beginnings. At this moment, I could easily storm in and expose them, tell them that from now on, we're done, go our separate ways. But I felt like that approach was just too lenient on them. When Ethan returned from his business trip, I was sitting in the living room, lost in thought. I'm back. Did you miss me? After changing his shoes, the first thing he did was try to hug me, but I avoided him. Now, every time I see his face, I remember the scene of him with Chloe in that private cinema. It makes me feel physically sick. Are you upset because we didn't talk much yesterday due to the bad signal? Don't worry, I brought you a gift. Ethan took out a necklace he bought for me. He put it on me himself. The lingering smell on his cuff. It assaulted my nose. Another wave of nausea hit me, but I still pretended to be happy. Because now is not the time to retaliate. I need to wait for the right opportunity, the perfect moment. The next moment, Ethan scratched his head and gave me this sheepish smile. Olivia, have you been in touch with Liam recently? Could you invite him out for a meal? Liam. Liam is my childhood friend, the kind you've known since you were like 5. Over the years, while I stayed loyal to Ethan, he kept himself busy, changing girlfriends almost every quarter. But this year, he seemed to have settled down a bit. His new girlfriend has been around for 3 whole quarters, which is quite an improvement for him. I never mocked him for being a playboy, though he often teased me for sticking to the same flavor for so long. Once, he even said that Ethan and I were like a toad trying to climb up to a swan who willingly accepted it. Ethan heard that comment and, already disliking Liam, became even more hostile towards him. So, for Ethan to bring up Liam and suggest inviting him to dinner, I was genuinely surprised. Yes, the vice president of the Thompson Group, your childhood friend Liam. I need to ask him for a favor. So that's what this is about. Tell me. Well, here's the thing. I have a friend from my hometown who just graduated this year. The job market is tough, and she only has an associate degree, so she's had a hard time finding work. But she's very motivated, and her field of study happens to align with the business at Thompson Group, so I was hoping my baby could help out and introduce her. Ethan has always been a bit proud. When I secretly arranged a job for him, he was upset for days, feeling I had hurt his pride. Now he's asking me for help for someone else, which means this person must be very important to him. Who is it? Chloe! My eyes brightened, as if I had just spotted prey about to walk right into a trap. Of course. I didn't expect to run into Chloe so soon. To thank me for agreeing to introduce her, she suggested taking Ethan and me out for dinner. How thoughtful. At the table sat the 3 of us, Ethan, Chloe, and me. Each of us had our own thoughts, our own little secrets, yet we all pretended as if nothing had happened. Olivia, thank you so much for agreeing to help. I'd like to propose a toast to you. Chloe raised her glass. I looked at this girl who had just turned 19. She was 10 years younger than Ethan, and anyone would think they were just a simple pair of siblings from the same village. But the truth was that their relationship was more disgusting than anyone could imagine. I linked my arm with Ethan's. Ethan, I can't drink. What should I do? Ethan was momentarily stunned, but then smiled and patted my head. It's okay. I'll drink for you. Thank you, Ethan. You're the best. Maybe to ease my suspicions. Ha! After I said this, Ethan even leaned in and kissed my cheek. But Chloe's expression across the table was no longer as composed as it was at the beginning. That still slightly childish face visibly showed a trace of anger. She quickly downed several more glasses. You two seem so close, unlike me, struggling out there all alone. I really hope one day I can have a boyfriend like Ethan, who can openly treat me well, not like now, hiding like a rat in the gutter, only able to sneak glimpses at other people's happiness. The meaning behind her words was pretty clear, which made Ethan panic a bit as he tried to stop her. Chloe, you've had too much to drink. But Chloe seemed determined, drinking one glass after another until she was completely drunk. I arranged for someone to take her back to the hotel while I drove Ethan home. His phone was with me, so when a call came in halfway, I answered it. Ethan, where are you? I've had too much to drink. I just heard someone knocking on the door, and I'm so scared. Chloe's sobbing voice came through the phone. Ethan, sitting in the passenger seat, visibly tensed up. What's wrong, Chloe? I'm here. He reached out to take the phone, but I pretended my hand was shaky, letting the phone slip to the driver's side door. The speaker was on, and her voice kept coming through. Ethan, are you really going to abandon me? Why did you shield her from drinking today? Were you doing it on purpose to show me? I'm so hurt, you know? Ethan panicked, glancing at me cautiously. She's just drunk and talking nonsense, Olivia. Hang up the phone, please. You said it yourself. It's just nonsense. Don't worry, I won't take it to heart. But the voice on the other end continued. Stop pretending to be so generous. If you're so confident, don't let Ethan protect you from drinking. Ethan leaned over, trying to grab the phone, shouting, Chloe, you've had too much to drink. She's your sister-in-law. Of course, I should protect her from drinking. Don't say things that could cause misunderstandings. But there was no sign that the person on the other end was going to stop. Ethan's attempts to grab the phone became more frantic, with almost half of his body leaning over to the driver's side. With his interference, I could no longer hold onto the steering wheel. The car's trajectory twisted out of control. With a loud bang, we crashed into the truck ahead. When I woke up, I was already in the hospital. Ethan sat by the bedside looking utterly defeated. Seeing me open my eyes, he dropped to his knees with a thud. I'm sorry, Olivia. It's all my fault. I caused the death of our child. You can hit me, curse me. The child was gone. Yes, I had known I was pregnant for a month. I had wanted to tell Ethan then. But he was frequently traveling for work during that time, and I couldn't find the right moment. Later, I discovered Ethan was cheating on me. At that point, I even considered giving up the baby. But in the end, I decided to keep it. I wanted to give all my love to the child. I had even planned out how I would raise her. I would shower her with money and love, take her to eat the best food, play in the best places, and she would only need to grow up freely and live a carefree life. But that opportunity was gone, forever. Please stop crying, okay? It's all my fault. It's all because of me. Ethan started slapping himself. I stared blankly at the ceiling, and after he had hit himself over 10 times, I reached out and stopped him. He grasped my hand and shouted towards the door. Get in here now! Chloe dragged herself in. Her head hung low the entire time. Olivia, last night I was drunk and everything I said was just drunken nonsense. I've been single for so many years, and seeing how in love you two are, it upset me. So I said those things. I'm sorry. But please believe me, Ethan and we're just neighbors who grew up together. Nothing more. Ethan echoed her. Olivia, please believe me. I looked at the two of them. Lying through their teeth, it was something they had mastered, and there was no doubt that they were responsible for the death of my child. But I still smiled faintly. I never doubted you. Hearing this, the two of them sighed in relief, and Ethan quickly asked, Then Chloe, can she still work at Liam's company? Of course. I fell into a deep sleep, and I had a dream. I dreamed of Ethan from a few years ago. Back then, he had failed his postgraduate exams and struggled to find a job. But he never complained to me about these hardships. Instead, he told me with great determination, I will work hard, hard enough to be worthy of my Olivia. When he received his first paycheck, he bought me a Coach bag. When he gave it to me, he had an embarrassed look on his face. I can't afford the brands you usually carry right now, but trust me, someday I will. Olivia, in the future, all my money will be yours, and so will my heart. Later, I couldn't bear to see him struggle, so I arranged for him to work at my family's company. I even assigned him several projects. Now he's capable of handling things on his own, but his heart isn't the same as before. I slept for a long time, and throughout my sleep, there was a constant dull pain in my heart. It was filled with guilt for the unborn child and regret for the 5-year relationship. When I woke up in a daze, I saw Ethan and Chloe sitting together at the foot of the bed. They were sneaking a kiss. I didn't make a sound. I just silently made up my mind. The child is too lonely down there and needs his father to keep him company. And Chloe is too unruly in this world and needs someone to teach her properly. After we returned from the hospital, Ethan began to frequently complain of back pain and experienced rapid weight loss. But his mood was quite good. The reason was simple. Chloe was thriving at Liam's company. Perhaps because I had helped her a lot in that regard, Ethan started to take extra care of me. He made chicken soup for me every day, washed and dried my hair. He prepared all 3 meals and served them at the table. He even pulled me close and reminisced about the early days of our relationship. Sometimes I would have a moment of illusion, as if we had returned to the beginning, as if there had never been a third person between us, as if we had never lost a child because of him. But I knew there was no going back. Liam, who had always been at odds with Ethan, started calling him frequently. He wanted to discuss Chloe. At first, He asked about her personality and social skills. Then, he inquired about her preferences, birthday, and family background. And then he told Ethan, I'm quite impressed with Chloe. I'm thinking of promoting her to be my personal assistant. After hanging up the phone, Ethan was visibly distracted, forcing a smile on his face. Olivia, your childhood friend isn't interested in Chloe, is he? Are you jealous? No, not at all. Ethan vehemently denied it. I just think, since Chloe is from my hometown, if she's looking for someone, I should definitely keep an eye on things for her. If you're so concerned, why not just be her boyfriend yourself? Olivia, I've told you there's nothing between us. Do you really need to say something like that? Do you think just because you lost a child, I have to spoil you forever? Ethan finally couldn't keep up the pretense. Ever since I was discharged from the hospital, I had used the excuse of poor health to keep him at home. At first, he took good care of me. But as the days passed without seeing Chloe, and now with the prospect of Liam taking her away, he couldn't sit still any longer. Forget it. I haven't been feeling well lately, so I'll head to the hospital. Ethan stormed out of the house. I drove after him as he left. I realized he didn't go to the hospital. Instead, he took a turn and went to see Chloe. They entered a private room at a restaurant. I sat in the room next door, and soon after, I heard them arguing. Are you getting involved with that Liam? Do you even know his background? Do you think you can climb that high? So what? You're allowed to climb up the social ladder, but I'm not? You haven't even seen me for over a month. How am I supposed to know if you still want me? Olivia is already suspicious. If she finds out, who knows if you'll even be able to keep your job. Hearing Ethan say this, Chloe's attitude softened. All right, I know you're just looking out for me. Don't worry, there's nothing between Liam and me. But you. Don't you dare sleep with that old woman, understand? I'm not that desperate. She just lost a child. I find it disgusting. My fists clenched involuntarily. I had been patient for so long, and now it was time to bring out the gift I had prepared for both of them. At the end of the month, it was Ethan's birthday. As was customary, his parents would come to the city to have dinner with him. But this year, in addition to his parents, a few other people from his hometown were coming. Apparently, they had heard that Ethan had helped Chloe get a job, so they wanted to ask for his help too. So I suggested that we throw a birthday party at the best hotel in the city. Ethan thought this was my way of making amends after our last argument and was quite pleased with the idea. On the day of the party, many people showed up. Ethan and Chloe's parents were seated, listening to the flattering words from their fellow villagers, smiling from ear to ear. Ethan is such a good kid, never forgets his roots. He's made something of himself and still helps the younger ones from his hometown find jobs. He's always been responsible since he was young. Olivia, you're lucky to marry such a capable man. But what about Chloe? Ethan helped her first. No wonder this girl has always followed her Ethan around, saying she'd marry him when she grew up. Ethan leaned over and whispered to me not to take it seriously. Then he turned and exchanged a flirty smile with Chloe. How ridiculous. A dirty cucumber. Who would want it? Halfway through the banquet, Liam arrived. Dressed in a sharp suit with his naturally handsome features, he drew everyone's attention. Mr. Thompson, what brings you here? Chloe, who had been exchanging glances with Ethan, quickly stood up to greet him. She even pulled out the chair next to her, inviting Liam to sit beside her. She served him food and poured him wine, overly attentive. Seeing Chloe and Liam's close behavior, the people around couldn't help but tease. Chloe, is this your boss? He's got the presence of a movie star. Yes, Mr. Thompson. You're still single, right? Chloe, you should make an effort. You know, they do look good together. Liam just smiled, but Chloe, blushing, served him another dish. As she did, she leaned in close to Liam. I glanced at Ethan, whose dissatisfaction was nearly visible. But he couldn't afford to show it, so he had to suppress it. After a brief round of small talk, Liam turned the attention to me. Olivia, today is Ethan's birthday, and I heard you've prepared a special gift for him. Why don't you show it to everyone? All eyes turned to me. I took the box from the waiter, but didn't open it right away. Instead, I put on the white gloves I had prepared. Wow, she's even putting on gloves to open it. It must be something really valuable, maybe a gemstone. There was a murmur of excitement in the crowd, and Ethan smiled sheepishly. Babe, having this party already makes me happy. There's no need to give me such an expensive gift. Chloe squeezed in. Olivia, it's not about how expensive the gift is. It's the thought that counts. I smiled slightly. Of course it's thoughtful because this gift is something you and I prepared together. Me? Amidst Chloe and everyone's confusion, I slowly opened the box. Everyone leaned in curiously to see. Then they watched as I pulled out a pair of ripped black stockings from the box. One pair, then another, a total of 3 pairs, and 2 sets of lace lingerie. Olivia. Olivia! Ethan and Chloe spoke at the same time, their previously smug expressions now replaced with flushed faces. Some who didn't understand the situation whispered to me, Olivia, maybe you should give these things in private. There's nothing wrong with it because I turned to Ethan and Chloe. These are things the two of them used together. The room erupted into chaos and Ethan grabbed my wrist. Olivia, let's talk about this later, okay? Please. He spoke in a low voice, but his grip tightened, a silent threat. At that moment, Liam stepped forward and pulled Ethan away. Did you really think you and Olivia could still go back to how things were? He looked at me, then at the box. Hurry up, we've got people waiting to go for a late-night snack. I smiled knowingly, grabbed a stack of photos from the bottom of the box and tossed them into the air. Photos of Ethan and Chloe kissing, holding each other in the private cinema, and their filthy chat logs, fluttered down like snowflakes in the banquet hall. Everyone scrambled to pick them up, but the dignity and shame of those two could never be retrieved. How shameless. We thought Ethan was such a good guy, but it turns out they were having an affair. What a disgrace. They're an embarrassment to our village. We should never have come today. It's so unlucky. Ethan and Chloe, along with their parents, hung their heads under the barrage of insults. Ethan clutched his stomach, cold sweat forming on his forehead. Oh, stop pretending. I bet you used that to latch onto a wealthy girl, and you weren't even satisfied with that. You had to cheat. Let's go home. The villagers left in disgust. Liam took my arm to lead me out as well. By then, Ethan was curled up on the ground in pain, calling out to me, but I didn't look back. He called out to Chloe, but she ran after Liam. Mr. Thompson, please let me explain. Liam turned, extending his hand to keep her at a distance. Chloe, didn't you just ask me why I came? Well, now I'll tell you. I'm here to fire you. Don't bother coming to work tomorrow. With that, Liam led me away. Behind us, Ethan's wails and the sound of their parents arguing echoed. One side blamed the girl for being indecent, seducing their son and ruining his future. The other blamed the boy for being useless, trying to be a gold digger and still messing around with other women. It was all rather embarrassing. But luckily, it had nothing to do with me anymore. Liam's car was parked right outside. I got in and sat in the back, and a cold beer was handed to me from the passenger seat. Congratulations, bestie, on regaining your freedom. It was my best friend, the one who had been dating Liam for 3 quarters. The next morning, my best friend dragged me out of bed. Get up, or you'll miss the flight. She had booked tickets and planned to take me abroad for a few days of fun. She even packed my luggage. She also handed me a new SIM card. He'll definitely try to contact you, so don't let him ruin your mood. And so I spent half a month having a blast with her abroad. It was fun, but I couldn't stand how she'd spend every night on the phone with Liam, being all lovey-dovey. When I got back and switched to my original SIM card, my phone buzzed continuously for over 10 minutes. All of them were notifications, messages from Ethan. Olivia, please listen to me. Nothing happened between me and her in the private cinema. She was drunk and insisted on sitting on my lap, that's all. Those awful things I said weren't intentional. I was just confused for a moment. I'm sorry. The diagnosis came back today. It's pancreatic cancer. Olivia, I'm dying. Please, can you see me one last time? I'm begging you. Before I could finish reading the messages, Ethan's call came through. You finally picked up. Can we meet? No. After hanging up the phone, I returned to the villa where Ethan and I used to live together. I had already hired someone to pack up the things inside. All that was left was a photo of Ethan and me, sitting alone on the cabinet. This photo was taken during our 3rd anniversary together, in the deserts of the Northwest. With the setting sun in the background, two young and naive people leaned against each other, laughing happily. I still remember Ethan holding me and saying, "Olivia, you're my oasis in the desert. My vitality comes from you." Looking at this photo now, it only felt painfully ironic. "You're looking at the photo. You still can't let go, can you?" The sudden voice startled me. When I turned around, it was Ethan. After not seeing him for half a month, he looked like a different person. His face was pale, his body gaunt. "There's nothing I can't let go of." I placed the photo back on the cabinet. "But you, shouldn't you knock before entering someone else's house?" Ethan pressed his lips together. "Olivia, I'm in this state now. Do you really have to treat me like this?" "Your condition isn't my doing. I told you to go to the hospital, but you said you were fine and just needed a few days of rest. In the end, when you finally decided to go to the hospital, you took a detour to see Chloe. Do you remember what you said to her that time? Shall I help you recall?" I took a deep breath. "I'm not going to sleep with that old woman. She just lost a child. It disgusts me." Seeing her face, I have no interest. "Stop! Stop!" Ethan shouted, trying to stop me. He leaned against the wall as if any more agitation would cause him to collapse. But I didn't care and continued. "So, Ethan, you don't deserve forgiveness. You should go find Chloe, shouldn't you? After all, I've stepped aside and given my blessing to your true love." Ethan's dazed expression was tinged with irony. He wanted to keep begging me for another chance. Fortunately, his parents arrived and took him back to the hospital. Before leaving, he took the photo from the cabinet. Ethan's messages still came every day. I didn't block him, but I also didn't reply. Now I'm busy every day, taking back control of the company affairs that I had previously entrusted to Ethan. One night, a little after 10 p.m., I left the office feeling hungry. I decided to go to a small tavern I hadn't visited in a long time for a bite to eat, and I let my driver go home. After eating, as I walked out, I had the distinct feeling that someone was following me. And sure enough, as I reached the mouth of an alley, someone lunged at me from behind. Luckily, I was quick and managed to dodge and grab the person's arm. Looking closer, I realized it was Chloe. "Olivia, you wretched woman. You've ruined Ethan's and my future. Now I'm branded as a homewrecker, and Ethan is dying in the hospital while you're living the high life. Why?" She was almost screaming. I looked at her calmly. "Why? Because I have a clear conscience, unlike the two of you who are disgusting. Spare me the morality speech. Your principles won't put food on the table. Olivia, give me 500,000 pounds as compensation, or today I'll drag you down with me. I've got nothing to lose, but you're a rich girl. If you die, it's you who loses." Chloe pulled out a knife, the blade glinting under the streetlights. Just as she was about to attack, someone rushed in and grabbed her. When I first noticed someone following me, I had messaged my best friend. Thankfully, she arrived just in time. Chloe was detained. Ethan started calling me frantically, begging me to come to the hospital. I figured he still cared about Chloe, otherwise why would he be so desperate to see me? Just to seek justice for Chloe. But when I saw him, the first thing he said was, "Are you still mad? Can you stay with me now?" His words made me want to laugh. "Ethan, did you really think I was just mad at you? The truth is, you're not worth it anymore. You don't stir any emotions in me. To me, you're just an ordinary passerby." I turned to leave, but Ethan struggled to his feet and grabbed my hand. "Then think of it as me begging you. I'm begging you to stay with me for the last stretch. I don't want to die alone." His eyes were red. A terminally ill patient. A patient I had shared a 5-year relationship with, now on the brink of death. Begging me to accompany him on his final journey. To say I wasn't moved would be a lie. But then I thought of my child. Of him saying that he found me disgusting because I had lost a child. I violently shook off his hand. "Your fate has nothing to do with me." I completely deleted and blocked Ethan's contact information. When he couldn't reach me, he started calling from different numbers. I blocked each one as it came. Later, his mother sent me a few messages. She said that Ethan often sat staring out the window, clutching the photo of the two of us in the desert. Whenever the pain became unbearable, he would grip that photo frame tightly, silently staring at the picture of us laughing, lost in thought. Since Chloe's release, she had only visited the hospital a few times, not to care for Ethan, but to blame him for ruining her life. The two of them are now at each other's throats, with Ethan becoming agitated whenever he sees her, threatening to strangle her. She also said that Ethan frequently dreamed of me and the child, imagining teaching the child to say mommy and daddy. He often dreams of our past together, murmuring my name in his sleep. Chloe has not returned to the hospital or gone back to her hometown. Her scandalous behavior became widely known, leaving her parents disgraced and scorned by their village. In their anger, her parents withdrew all the money Chloe had saved over the years and used it to send her younger sister abroad for school. Chloe, now destitute, spends her days threatening suicide and quarreling with her parents. Her mental state seems increasingly unstable. I closed my phone and blocked Ethan's mother's contact as well because nothing about Ethan concerns me anymore. At the end of the month, I attended a wedding. Liam and my best friends. The two of them were just as inseparable as before. Their vows were more touching than ever. Everyone said that Liam, the notorious playboy, had finally settled down, but I knew that they were evenly matched and truly loved each other. I was happy for them. When it came time to toss the bouquet, my best friend deliberately aimed it in my direction, but I made sure to step aside. I looked up at the sky outside. Spring had arrived and flowers were blooming all along the way. I just wanted to walk this path steadily and securely. Anything else was just decoration, and for me, it was no longer necessary.